Hey everyone, I'm Silas. I'm the CTO at Valora. We recently released a new project called Divvi. Divvi makes it very efficient for ecosystems and protocol to collaborate with builders to fuel growth, and makes it super simple for builders to get rewarded from those protocols based on their on-chain impact. At Divvi, we think that funding is one of the main impediments to scaling blockchain adoption very broadly, basically executing on the promise or the hope that we've been working on for the last 10 years. So I'm really excited to be here and share what we think is part of the solution to that. So to start off with, I wanted to highlight the kind of disappointing nature of funding today in Web3. At Divvi, we believe that individuals, contributors, and projects should be rewarded in proportion to their impact, ideally the impact they bring on chain. In the current options available today, grants, retro funding, and what we call pay to play, miss the mark in a number of different ways. Grants are often subjective. You're codifying milestones in English or some other non-Solidity language, and there's like lots of room for discussion about whether you've met the milestone, whether you get paid, and oftentimes or so we've heard, it can be a relatively political process. Retro grants or retro funding are a little bit of an improvement, although they're delayed, and your impact isn't really well known while you're working on your project. You might be grinding away, thinking you're doing a great job bringing impact to a particular ecosystem, and then find out later that you're really targeting the wrong things. And then pay to play, what we mean by this is when you essentially offer some capital to be part of an ecosystem. Could be like providing liquidity, could be buying a governance token, and then trying to encourage use of that platform. The problem with this is that your rewards are essentially capped by your ability to buy in. So none of these are great. I think they're unfair to builders because builders aren't being rewarded for the impact they bring. And I think they're really inefficient for protocols and ecosystems who, given one token, they want to get the most bang for their buck out of that token. And I don't think any of these programs really deliver on that. And I think that these models are impeding the growth of blockchain ecosystems. I don't know Web3 Crystal, but I like her style. I like the tweet. I think she's being a little glib, but it captures sort of my viewpoint in a little bit of a succinct way. So I'd like to share and brainstorm a little bit on how we could come up with a better model, one that grows the pie for ecosystems and grows the pie for builders also. So you can probably guess where this is going. I think a better model starts with an on-chain funding model with well-defined impact metrics that rewards builders automatically. And so the idea here is if you're an ecosystem, you only pay for incremental value that's delivered to your ecosystem. And if you're a builder, you get paid for bringing impact, and all you need to do is focus on creating value. For ecosystems, I think this solves the problem where they're worried about deploying their capital efficiently because for 1 unit of their token, they're only giving that out when people actually deliver impact to the ecosystem. This idea of on-chain impact-based funding is not new. I have a couple examples here. I'm sure there's plenty more where protocols have essentially built this in as a core part of their offering. But I think it's interesting to go over them, to give credit to the ideas, but also I think it's pretty compelling evidence that this model can work really well. The first one, Liquidity, is a collateralized lending program on Ethereum. It has like a relatively modest TVL of only 350 million. Modest when compared to some of the big players, but they're on at least tens or probably more front ends that integrate with Liquidity, and try to onboard users to the protocol. And the reason they have this broad coverage of front ends is that they have built into the protocol a mechanism for sharing revenue with front end builders. And what they do is when a user first comes to one of these front ends and is interacting with Liquidity for the first time, you tack on a little bit of metadata with the transaction that says, hey, this user's new, I'm referring them, here's an ID for my front end. And then forever after, the front end that refers that user gets a slice of the protocol revenue that that user helps generate. Beefy's a second example. Beefy's a yield optimizer. I'll shill Beefy all day long. They have a relatively small core team, but they have this like massive set of yield optimization strategies, over 1,000 of them across more than 20 chains. And I think the reason for this broad offering from Beefy is that they buy into on-chain impact-based funding, specifically for strategy developers. You get a small slice of the harvest revenue that your strategy brings to the Beefy protocol. And so folks are highly incentivized to build out these strategies across all these different chains. And so what we're aiming to do with Divvi is build a generalized platform that makes it really easy for any protocol to adopt this approach, and also for builders to integrate it into their products. So Divvi is an on-chain orchestration layer that helps ecosystems grow by paying builders for impact. So I'll quickly go over, at least at a high level, how protocols plug into Divvi, and then how a builder can plug into Divvi. So there's basically 2 steps for a protocol. The first is to define what we call an impact reward function with Divvi. This is basically how you measure impact or value added to your ecosystem and how much you're willing to pay for it. It can be immutable or time locked, so have some expiry on it. We expect, since this is a relatively new model, and projects might be at different phases of their life cycle, that there might be some experimentation here. So if you're pre-revenue, maybe you want to incentivize something like monthly active users. But if you've already hit the inflection point where you're generating revenue, you probably want to define impact as incremental revenue. But anyways, you sort of go along that growth journey. You can imagine changing how you incentivize and measure value. The second step is to pledge capital with Divvi. This can be continuous, so essentially in perpetuity, kind of following the Liquidity model, or capped by some time and amount. And again, we're building in flexibility for protocols to experiment a little bit with this model. I think we expect that there'll be some market dynamics here where builders will be willing to accept a smaller slice of value or rewards in return for more certainty around the rewards and the capital. And similarly, they'll want a larger reward given more uncertainty. So that's how protocols or ecosystems can plug in. And now for builders, we think this is really easy, as long as you know what kind of product you're building and know what protocols you can leverage to solve those problems. That's what step 2 is really focused on. So identifying the protocols that Divvi supports that help solve user problems for you. And again, you'll probably want to consider the reward amount and the certainty around those rewards. The next step is to register as a builder with Divvi. This currently requires submitting a Google form. We need to run some AML and OFAC checks on the wallet address that receives the rewards, but we're working on sort of eliminating that constraint, hopefully, in the near future. And then step 3 is to register referrals on-chain with Divvi, and again, sort of copying from the Liquidity folks, the referral impact rewards are in perpetuity. So if you help onboard a user do a specific protocol, and the user eventually leaves your application and goes on to do great things with that protocol, as a builder, you're going to be entitled to some % of the growth that user continues to contribute to the protocol. So that's kind of it for like high level how an ecosystem and how builders can integrate with Divvi. We think that this can make funding much more scalable than it is today, and I think there's like 3 sort of example use cases that I personally am passionate about and find really interesting. The first is something that I call long tail funding. This is something that we've bumped into in some shape or form at Valora, but I think that Divvi can enable the sort of hundreds or thousands of these like very hyper-local specialized applications that might be targeted at a specific country or maybe even a specific community within a city. There's 2 examples here that I'm excited about that are building on Divvi today. One is called 2COP. It's specific to the Colombian market. And the other is called Ccash, which targets the Kenyan market. 2COP offers like 3-4 different features. You can onboard from fiat into crypto into a Colombian peso stablecoin. You can do peer-to-peer payments. You can swap your Colombian peso stablecoin for USD-backed stablecoin and then earn yield on that USD-backed stablecoin using the protocols that Divvi supports. And then the fourth one is a uncollateralized lending program that's like very specific to the Colombian market. And it's unlikely that 2COP is going to be a global phenomenon. They have like the Colombian peso currency symbol in their name, but they're getting funding from building this like relatively niche application. They're helping incrementally grow the value of the underlying protocols they're using for yield. And I think it's a great example of one of these hyper-localized applications. The second use case I'm excited about is decentralized marketing. I've probably spent more time trying to implement decentralized marketing campaigns than I feel good about admitting. But basically, there's a feature in Divvi that allows you to split rewards over several different entities. And so what you can do is have referral links for local ambassadors for your application that you're building and incentivize them to help onboard new users to your app and the underlying protocols that you've integrated with that Divvi supports. And the idea here is that instead of just simply like onboarding users and forgetting about it, or like incentivizing transactions that don't add value to the ecosystem, these ambassadors are going to be highly incentivized to find users that are high value for your ecosystem and your protocol, and sort of handhold them and get them onboarded and make sure they're getting value out of using your application. And then the last thing is not really one specific application, but this idea that you kind of own your impact. And you have full control over the stream of rewards that's coming your way. And so you can do sort of maybe creative, wacky things. If you wanted to, you could sort of tokenize your income stream, package it up and sell it. And I could imagine this like really funky state where there's degens sort of betting or buying up these income streams. I've been hearing a lot about AI agents. Could imagine there's AI agents running around trying to speculate on the most lucrative income streams. Okay, so that's about it. I have some details on how you can get started with Divvi today. We are just launched last week. We have what we're calling a builder camp to help builders get started integrating Divvi into applications. We're using Divvi to incentivize growth of Divvi, so there's some like bonuses baked into this program if you help the Divvi protocol reach certain milestones. We have a nice set of initial protocols that we support, and you can bring a new app idea. You can get started from scratch, or if you have an existing one, it's really easy to plug in to Divvi. It's like 10 lines of TypeScript. This is all it takes. We're also have some bounties on the hackathon going on right now at ETHDenver. Seems like the easiest couple grand anyone could make who's participating in a hackathon. There's more info on our docs page, but it really just boils down to these 5 TypeScript statements. OK, so that's it. If you're a protocol or an ecosystem and looking for additional levers to help grow, would love to chat with you. And if you're a builder trying to get funding or thinking about what your next project is, would also love to chat with you about that. We'll have a booth at the ETHDenver proper. And thanks so much.